You're on the way of probably considering a new sub $30,000 vehicle. Whether you're getting an SUV or a midsize sedan, something has to be practical for you on a day-to-day basis. Well, Kia has refreshed the all-new 2025 K5, and there are significant updates in here that you may really like or you may not like. So we're going to go in depth on the interior as well as everything else around the exterior to let you know whether this should be a good choice for you or not. You're watching General Cars. My name is Sebastian, and let's get straight to it. I've never done a full review of the K5 before, and now I'm able to do a full review of the refreshed K5. And I will say the interior does have some decent updates on it. Before, you did have a lot of physical controls all over the interior, which some it may seem overwhelming, some they may like physical controls. Well, for 2025, that is all gone. Everything now, majority of everything at least, is touch sensitive. But I will say this one thing. It is very, very responsive. When I'm controlling anything within the volume knobs as well as the AC controls, it's extremely responsive. I can literally turn my volume up and down, which luckily the knobs are physical, but I can also switch over to my AC controls where I'm able to change the fan speeds as well as raise the temperature. Since this is dual zone climate control, you can raise it individually. And it has some ups and downs of it. Sometimes when you just want to raise your volume, you may accidentally raise your temperature all the way up to 80 degrees for yourself. But you'll realize that when you find out the hard way as you're sweating your shirt out. After that, you'll then realize that you have to tap a simple function, and that's when you're able to do anything involving with the infotainment system. Once you get used to this, it's actually quite easy to use. I've been messing with it, and even then, I'm sometimes exposed to Kias on my personal job, and it's rather easy to use. It's not hard, and luckily this is very, very sensitive, so you're able to touch everything relatively quickly, and it's able to respond at the tap of your finger. So that's something that is really convenient. The infotainment system. This is now another update that Kia has done for the K5. You have these two gigantic screens that's going to have your digital gauge cluster as well as your big infotainment system. It's going to be the updated Kia infotainment system, which it is rather easy to use. It does have Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, of course, like any other products nowadays and stuff. But rather, everything is super sensitive now. Before, if you were to have an older K5 or you messed with an older K5 before, you'll notice that the infotainment system is slightly slower. This one is super responsive by just a simple swipe. You're able to get to all your menus really, really quickly. And that is something that's maybe convenient for you as something that it's just like a touchscreen now. It's like a little touchscreen from your phone. Now, the digital gauge cluster, there are mixed feelings between this. It's really up to you whether you like it or not, but it is fully digital now. You're gonna, of course, it's coming from a flat screen that also has a small curve that's just dividing between the infotainment system as well as the gauge cluster, but you are able to see a few functions in here. Of course, you're able to check your trim monitor as well as you have a compass and everything of that sort all around, and you're able to see different information that you may want to see during your drive of wherever you're going. So that's something that is pretty convenient. You still also have a temperature gauge as well as a fuel gauge, and you still have a tachometer as well as a speedometer. Looks a little weird now. I mean, it looks pretty robotic nowadays, but at the end of the day, if it's something that you like, then you like it. If you don't like it, it's something that you're gonna have to get used to now. So down below, you're gonna also have your really nice set of storage as well as charging capability. You still have a 12-volt outlet that you're able to push out, and you're able to just plug whatever you want to plug in there. You also do have USB-C ports that is also able to connect with Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, and you're also going to have your shifter in the center as well as cup holders. You're also going to have auto hold and electronic parking brake, and you also have the ability to actually turn on your camera and see your rear view camera. This car does not have 360 camera. However, I believe it's an option. Don't quote me on that. I'll say it in the bottom if it is an option or not. But you do have the ability to check your cameras. And in the center more, if you decide to go lower, you do have your heated rear seats where you're able to control whether you want heat or not. You have a heated steering wheel, which is something pretty nice. And you do have your drive mode just right in the center. You can go into normal, snow, My Drive, which is a custom driving mode, depending on if you want customizations for your K5, or you can go to sports or leave it at normal. It's up to you. This is not really necessarily a performance car, it's more of a sports appearance package. If you want to get performance, you will have to get the GT. This right here is a GT line. It just has a naturally aspirated 4-cylinder, which is also another update that the K5 has. So we're going to get into that in a second. We're going to jump in the back seat so I can show you how a 6-foot person sits in the back seat of a K5. Right, so now in the back seat of this K5, you're going to see that mostly the dimensions between the first pre-fresh of the K5 comparing to the new refresh model in 2025, the dimensions really have not changed at all. And to be honest with you, they didn't really need to change. In terms of space in the back seats, you can fit a full-grown pedestrian in the back seat of your K5. I'm 6 feet tall. I have still about like 1 inch to 2 inches of leg room between my personal driving position as well as the back seat. So in terms of anyone being 6 feet or above, you could fit a full-grown adult in the back if you're rather comfortably. You also do have a couple things in the back seat. First of all, you do have USB-C ports in the back, so you're able to charge your phone or your blender if you so happen to feel like blending something in the back seat. And you also do have a center armrest in the middle where it's able to attach, where it has attachments of 2 cup holders. So this is a very nice and comfortable seating area for your K5. And there's a few things I didn't mention yet. First of all, the design of the interior is very simple, but also very aesthetic, I guess you want to say that. The materials in here do feel like a major improvement between some of the older Kia models, where some materials feel rather cheap. The plastics didn't feel maybe right, but now the build quality as well as the plastic interiors have improved. I mean, it doesn't feel like I'm in a Kia anymore when I'm sitting in the inside of a K5. You know, it's hard for you to recognize that this is a Kia. And the only way you're going to recognize it's a Kia is by the badge and by everything else that's going to represent a Kia in the end of the day. That's one thing that I could say that Kia has really improved on very strongly, was the material choices that they decided to use, as well as the luxury gimmicks that they have in the interiors that make this car feel a lot more premium rather than just the original South Korean unreliable piece of garbage that it used to be. In the end of the day, Kia's had a pretty bad reputation back then for having a pretty unreliable product. But now, though, yes, there is definitely controversy between these engines burning oil and everything like that. That is something that Kia has started to change, and it's just depending on what they're going to do about it. But we're going to see how reliability is going to be, as this thing does have a brand new motor. What's under here now is not the 1.6 turbo. It's something all new, and we're going to talk about it right now.
And the new powertrain is going to be a 2.5 liter naturally aspirated 4-cylinder. Makes 191 horsepower and 180 pound-feet of torque. The LX all the way to the GT line can come with all-wheel drive, while the GT model does not come with all-wheel drive. So this should be a little bit better with fuel efficiency as well as just general performance compared to the 1.6 liter turbocharged 4-cylinder. And trunk space in the K5 has not changed for this refresh model, and it honestly did not need to. You get about 16 cubic feet of space inside the trunk, and that's going to be enough for majority of people. You could do at least a 2-month grocery shop list if you really need to in the K5. Obviously, comparing to the Toyota Camry and the Honda Accord, yes, it's a little bit smaller than those cars, but it's quite enough for majority of people on a day-to-day basis as a daily driver.
To conclude my take on the K5, there's going to be a few things that I'm going to say. For one, there are nice features in here. Some features you may like, some features you may not really care for, or there's just downright features you just don't like at all. It's just depending on what you want in your daily driver. This car is made to be a daily driver. It's not made to be anything more special than that. There is a nice option to having a pretty powerful turbocharged 4-cylinder, which I can appreciate. But in the end of the day, majority of people are not going to buy that. And this thing being less than $35,000 as MSRP, of course, depending on what dealers and taxes and everything like that come up nowadays, it's just gonna happen, you know. But this really off the bat being $33,000, I have to say I'm pretty impressed with all the features that it comes with that normally would be up to more than $40,000 nowadays. I'm genuinely surprised with how good this car really is in terms of all the features. I have driven a few of these things. Today I'm not able to drive one. However, just with all the features that it has, and I know these things ride good, you really can't beat it, honestly. Cars nowadays, they're extremely expensive. And for this being still less than $35,000 with everything it has inside is something that I really have to give credit to Kia for. So with that said, that's really all I'm going to say in my take of this video. I hope you guys take care. If the K5 is something that you're thinking about, this is a vehicle that I definitely would say you should consider. Until next time, guys.